Desiree. Let's get diving right in here. I have a mom die from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm just placing small marks on my cardstock so I know where I'm going to die cut that image. This is watercolor Canson XL paper that I am using, and it has been cut to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to be using some distress inks for this, for this image. Still loving the Saltwater Taffy and the Festive berries this time for the red. And of course, the Villainous potion. Had to throw that in there as well. So the peg stamp set that I'm using is called Sweet Magnolia. And what I love about it is the flowers are open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a brush with little water. You want to make sure that, yes, you want to dip it in your water, but you really want to pat as much water off as you can. And I'm moving this color. Since I'm using distress inks, they are water reactive. So I'm moving and shifting that color. So instead of having these flowers that have the lines and being an open space, I'm actually staying within those lines with my brush and making them look solid. Now we're going to bring those lines back when it comes to our stamping once we're done. I love these colors. This Saltwater Taffy, it goes with everything. It goes beautifully with Villainous potion. Excuse me. It goes awesomely with speckled egg. Having Saltwater Taffy, speckled egg, and yes, dare I say, vintage photo. It is a vintage dream. So yeah, it's just awesome. Okay, so filling in, still pulling in this color, making sure that I'm staying within those lines. And don't get me wrong, this looks great. This looks great the way that the distress inks dry. They don't, yes, they dry like a watercolor, but not exactly. They have these, when they have a puddle, it just is awesome looking. So yeah, so I'm using my heat tool to dry this, because what we're going to do now is we're going to come back in with those pegs and we're going to stamp back over them again. Now, I did use my heat tool. You obviously saw that. It was very close for you all. I'm so sorry about that. But that's all right. It's about now where I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm still zoomed in. And thank goodness I did not get out of frame. I'm just saying. But some of them are just a little bit damp, so those colors are just bleeding right back in, which I am loving. I think that looks absolutely great. And I think it gives a great design. I am not worried about being exact on top of the original image. It's like that, what I refer to as messy watercolor. You don't have to stay in the lines. It looks awesome that way. And stay tuned for more on that one. But to just have those colors, it just looks great. I'm going to come in with the greens now, so they have one peg when it comes to this set. It's a big fern, and I'm just stamping that throughout. I will move those colors as well with my brush, but what I'm going to do is, you're going to see, I'm going to take my brush, same thing with the water. You don't want all water. You want to make sure you dab off some of your water, and I'm just going to squiggle right up the center. These are technical terms, squiggle. We're just going to, here we go. See, we're going to squiggle, 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 squiggle. So that's what we're doing with that. I don't want to go over the entire image because I also don't want it to bleed into my flowers. Now, some of them do, but that's okay. But I just want to go right up that center to take out that solid, that whiteness in there. Here comes the heat gun. Wow, that is like really looking violent there. Heat gun just to dry that, because now I'm going to come in with ground espresso. For my green, I use bundled sage. And I'm using ground espresso this time to just put in these little tiny vines throughout the piece. And again, peg stamps, you know, they're just that. They are a peg. But there is just so much that you can do. So the technique that I just showed is new. I believe I've done this before, where I've stamped my panel and I'm going to die cut through this with these large letters of Mom. And then I'm also going to die cut from a pink and also from a watercolor paper, because this is where it comes from. So when you look at the side of my card, you're going to see that pink and white. You're not just going to see all of this white. You're going to see the different colors. I'm going to take this panel and adhere it using my liquid glue onto a green to accent the green in our stamping. And I'm going to take this panel and apply it to our standard A2 size card base. I am loving my ATG gun. It is a wonderful thing, but of course right there it runs out of tape. So that's okay. Just going to trim off this one edge because it was hanging over, but just to make the card look even. And now I'm just going to glue all of my letters together. So I started out with 2 layers of the watercolor paper because that's what we stamped on. So I wanted that color to come up into the letter. Then on top of those 2 letters, I'm going to be adhering 2 layers of a pink. And that pink actually is very close to the Saltwater Taffy. So it's like a very pale coral pink. I mean, we could throw all kinds of colors in there. It's a pale pink. Just saying. And I'm just going to layer those up so that when you look at this on the side, you could have all of the white or continue with the watercolor paper. But for me, just to add a little bit of interest, just add some of that pink. And then it just gives you a different color to look at. The last layer on my letter, sorry about that, is going to be, of course, the watercolor. Now, make sure you're keeping your watercolor die cuts in the same area of which they came from. I almost flipped the 2 M's. I'm just saying. You know, sometimes we just keep going and we get all kinds of excited. Yeah. Make sure you also save your center piece as well so that you can put that down. The other reason why I use colored cardstock is because when the card is being looked at, the letters will stand out even more when it comes to the design. And as you can see, I added some gems in the center of all of the flowers. I hope you enjoyed today's project featuring the sweet Magnolia, but also to learn what you can do with your peg stamps when they are open, just add a little bit of water, use a water reactive ink, and you are set to go and then do a double stamping. As always, the products that I used are listed down below in the video description. If you have any questions, make sure they're down below as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Enjoy your day. I hope you are having a great one. Make sure you subscribe. Also, remember, give it that thumbs up. That helps YouTube to push this out further so more can see this technique as well. But remember what's most important for me, honestly, always be creative. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Take care, guys.